A lot of folks go out there and talk about how pro-Israel they are and how much they would respect Israel as an ally, and contrast with a president who has been as hostile to Israel as any president in the history of our country. I have a track record of not only supporting the state of Israel when I was on the Armed Services Committee for 8 years and worked with them on a missile defense system, traveled to Israel to even to work cooperatively with them as I authorized money for that program. But I also worked on two major bills that dealt with the security of Israel. One dealing with Syria, when Syria was involved in Lebanon, Hezbollah, and was putting pressure on northern Israel, which resulted in a conflict in that region. And also, secondarily, with Iran. I've sort of been a laser beam focus on Iran for the past 7 years. When the Iraq War was at its height, I was out there talking about, we're missing the boat here. We need to focus on Iran because they're developing a nuclear weapon. And you say, Rick, don't say that, because, you know, Iraq, everybody said there's weapons of mass destruction, and they weren't there. And you're out there saying, here's another country. And I said, well, this is true. Just because that one, Saddam Hussein didn't have a nuclear weapon or wasn't that close to getting one, doesn't mean that these folks aren't serious about it. Well, for about a year or two, the intelligence community said, there is no nuclear program. Whatever they had was shut down. I had different intelligence, and I continue to push forward with this bill. President Bush opposed me. Joe Biden opposed me when I brought it to the floor of the United States Senate. Barack Obama voted against my bill, as did Joe Biden. And then within 4 months after they voted it down, it became apparent what Iran was doing in killing our troops, and that in fact there was a nuclear program, and it was in fact progressing. And both the administration who was opposed me and Barack and Joe all voted for the bill. So we were able to get it passed. It did two things. It funded the pro-democracy movement, put $100 million up every year for us to get to the guys in the streets, the folks who are trying to oppose this theocracy that is Iran, and help them organize, give them the technology to be able to organize a revolution in their country, to be able to get rid of this regime that is an existential threat, not just to the state of Israel, but to the United States and the West. Well, and as we see, they continue now because this president has shown his weakness repeatedly with respect to Iran. When that revolution did occur, President Obama, when he came into office, cut the funds for the pro-democracy movement. By the way, Bush didn't spend very many of them either. And when the revolution occurred, we had no connection to it. And worse yet, the President of the United States waited 2 weeks to make any comment until the revolution was basically suppressed. The only comment he made early on is when Ahmadinejad made the announcement in the summer of 2009, when the election results came in, which was a fraudulent election. Within an hour, I think less than an hour of the polls closing, Ahmadinejad announced that he had won, I think, with 62% of the vote. And President Obama said, it looked like a legitimate election to me. Well, he's from Chicago. Of course it looked like it. So he continually appeased Iran. Continually. Now, I'm happy he signed some sanctions today. But it is the first time I've seen him do anything to try to stand up to this regime that is building a nuclear weapon and doing so. Anybody know where they're building the nuclear weapon, the name of the town?
QOM.
QOM. Qom. Qom. Qom is a town outside of Tehran that has a very, very important religious meaning for the people of Iran. Qom is the site of the Jamkaran well. What's the Jamkaran well? The Jamkaran well was the residence of the 12th Imam, the Mahdi, the man who ruled from this well for 70 years until he announced he was going to go into a suspended state and return at a time of great chaos to help Shia Islam to conquer and rule the world. This well, which still exists, there's a mosque. Ahmadinejad and all of his buddies come to the well. And they write things down and they drop things into the well to ask for the guidance of the Mahdi. Every speech that Ahmadinejad gives, he talks about that the Mahdi is coming soon, that they're preparing the way for him to come back. And just so happens they're building a nuclear facility at a time when this man comes back at a great time of chaos. That they're building this nuclear facility, peaceful of course, according to them, happens to be in this very important town dealing with the end of times predictions for Shia Islam. And so when you hear Democrats and Republicans join together and say, Iran should not get a nuclear weapon, well, there's a lot of countries that have gotten nuclear weapons. That, Republicans and Democrats, we don't want anybody else to get a nuclear weapon, but you don't see them really doing anything diligently to stop them. But now you have Republicans and Democrats pretty ardent saying, no, they shouldn't. Why? This nuclear facility is being built in Qom. These are folks who are not just going to build it to protect themselves. They're going to build it to either shield themselves from attack as they attack others through terrorism, or use it. And this is the real threat. That's why we have to have a policy, and I've laid out a 5-point plan that says Iran will not get a nuclear weapon under Rick Santorum's administration. Period. We will. And I will use all means necessary, because if they do get a nuclear weapon, the world as you know it will be fundamentally changed. The events that we saw on 9/11 will not be a once in a decade or more occurrence. It will be life in the Western world with this theocracy, with the protection of having a nuclear weapon in its hands.